You know how you'd probably know this about me. I hate hacks.
Hacks.
And I don't mean like shitty journalists or people who are bad at their jobs. I mean, they're annoying.
What, you mean life hacks?
Life hacks. They drive me crazy.
You hate life hacks?
I hate the whole thing around it. I hate the attitude.
What?
Because I think it's a load of...
Put all of your socks into little balls and then they're easier to find in the drawer?
That's not a hack. That's just organising.
All right, hang on. So what are some other hacks?
Hacks is cheating. It's like, how can I get all this stuff done that looks like work without doing anything?
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
How can I do like a little shortcut that will actually save me a whole bunch of time? No.
That's a shortcut, not a hack.
Okay. There's a website called, I think it's Life Hacks or something like that. And usually it's like, how can I use garbage to do stuff?
To dress my wound.
No, stuff like, organize your cables behind your TV.
That's not a hack.
Okay. What is your definition of a hack?
Here it comes.
Okay.
So because I hate it, it drives me crazy. It really annoys me because all I hear for hack is how can I get a bunch of stuff without any effort.
Okay, fair enough.
That's what annoys me.
That sounds bad, yeah.
How do I hack my way through this essay? You do the research and you write it.
Oh, there's a teacher. Listen to this teacher guy. He's like, oh...
I'll have you now.
I did my own essays back in my day.
Yeah, we didn't have the internet. So I was flicking through the aforementioned internet, and I saw an article on Fast Company, and it was talking about the cult of busyness.
Yes.
And the Church of Productivity. And I thought, yeah, you have my
Church of Productivity.
I know, right?
You are not a worshipper in the Church of Productivity, or are you?
I'm not against being productive.
But you don't worship it?
No. Well, it depends what you mean. This is the thing. I think there's nuance. There's nuance to this. So on hacks, it reminded me, I mean, you brought this up, it reminded me of the site like Lifehacker, and basically the description of Lifehacker, I'm paraphrasing, a constant warm, wet stream of tips and tricks for getting more things done in less time.
Yeah,
They might not have said warm, wet stream. But it's more. But
is it terrible if you're going to do it anyway? If there's some.
Are you?
Well, okay, it's some sort of trick for sorting out your washing into lights and darks more easily. I don't know what that would be, other than sorting.
Go on colour.
Other than use your eyes. I don't know.
See, you got a name. No, for me, it's like those books that were going around. I think it was late 90s, early 2000s. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Sure.
And I've got habit 8. Don't read the first 7. There's some time saved. What? Grumpy and old. It's no one's fault. So they also talk about people like, productivity gurus like Tim Ferriss, whose fans basically gulp down infinity tips and tricks on how to completely optimize your life.
You got to give me more of these examples that are horrible for you.
Optimize your life. It's the attitude that bothers me. It's more about the tude.
Okay. So you're saying that there could be 1 or 2 examples that would be all right for you.
Fuck off. Don't talk to me like that. How dare you? Yeah, there could be. But it depends what it's for. Like, it's the attitude. This is what I think. I mean, the thing is, I think it makes you walk around, like in a haze of blindness, man. So what I like about these things is, and this came up in the article as well, is if you do get your productivity hacks up, you don't use the extra time to, chill out, enjoy yourself.
No, you do more productivity.
Yeah, produce more.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's the classic, what'll I do with extra time now that I have to work as much? I will work more. And they get to the point where many people are so into this kind of hack mode or non-work. Every time you're not working, it's like a deficiency as opposed to an alternative to work.
Or actually the goal.
Or the goal.
The goal of everything to not be working.
Yeah.
You need to work so you can eat. But other than that, maybe
you don't have to work all the time. Sometimes. Yeah, you smell the farts.
Flowers. You smell the flowers.
I
don't think anyone has said what their definition of the good life is stopping to smell the farts. No. You stop and smell the roses or the flowers, not the farts.
Look, it's a first draft.
What are you doing in your retirement? Well, I'm just taking a little bit of time off to smell some farts.
I'm going to stop and smell the farts. No, Dad, I think you've got that wrong. So the article goes on. They quote another guy, an author in the New Republic, Steve Paul, and he says, "Look, we even treat sickness as undesirable, but not because it causes distress and discomfort, because it often results in lost productivity. So sickness now is a lost productive.
Yes, sickness stops you from answering emails, which is therefore why we must stop it.
Yeah, we must stop being sick because you can't answer emails.
Yeah, that's the problem.
So it gets a bit carried away, and it's basically life. People get so caught up in it, they get obsessed with becoming productively non-productive. So an example from Lifehacker, they offer you tips like the most efficient ways to meditate
Whoa. Okay.
take breaks, or take a nap.
I'm just asking for a friend.
Yeah. What was your friend reckon?
No, I'm asking for a friend. What are the most efficient ways to meditate? Because I don't always have enough time.
Yeah.
But
Well, look, here's one of the things. Take the time to meditate.
damn.
Yeah, my corporate buddy years ago, he's like, I'm so stressed, I got no time. My God, I'm getting confused. And I said, I'm going to tell you the thing that everyone in your position doesn't want to hear. You need to take time out and maybe meditate. And he goes, you're going to laugh at me? I said, why? I don't have time to meditate, man. I was like, I can't help you.
Yeah, well,
I got no help for you.
I get it.
He's good-humoured about his insane work. So the Fast Company article goes on. It says, okay, if productivity is like a church, its sacramental wine is Soylent.
What? Oh, yes. Okay. Yes, it is.
Have you heard of Soylent?
I have heard of Soylent.
Did we talk about Soylent?
We have talked about Soylent. There was I think you might have brought it up in your cannibalism episode. I think.
Sounds like something I'd do.
I think that was it. But it could be.
A quick reminder, and I will quote Fast Company for shortcut. I'm doing a hack. Podcast hack. So Soylent is, quote, the slurry of vitamins, minerals, protein, and carbohydrates.
Nothing is improved by calling it a slurry. There is no
What's
food.
This? There's the pork ribs. There's the blue-eyed cod.
You were just talking about
slurry of proteins.
Before we press the record button. You were talking about MasterChef, and I don't think there is ever. Okay, for this one, the challenge is to make a slurry.
Slurry, but it's got to be inviting. So yeah, it's a slurry of set ingredients that the 24-year-old coder Rob Reinhart, who invented it, he wanted to be a liquid food replacement.
Again, food invented by Coda describes it all. Like that, you didn't need to say anymore.
I made food algorithm.
Sorry, coders, we love you, but I also love chefs. And I want my coders to do coding and my chefs to do chefing. Yeah. If my chefs did coding, it would be weird.
Yeah, it would be weird.
So I
agree. So Adrian Chen, who's an author for Gorka, he described the Soylent as a thick, odorless beige liquid.
Slurry.
Mm-hmm. It tasted slightly sweet and earthy with a strong yeasty aftertaste. And it resembles the homemade non-toxic Play-Doh you made and sometimes ate as a kid. So it was basically supposed to be a survival product. And the guy who invented it, Reinhardt, said, look, I'm not trying to make something delicious. It's all about efficiency. It's about cost and convenience. Because he would lament, Reinhardt would lament about the time he would waste, hours a day allegedly, buying and preparing food. But with Soylent, he only had to spend minutes.
I do like, has he transferred from being a gourmet chef at home to just slurry? Because it doesn't take you hours to prepare just bog standard.
Fry a fucking egg.
Exactly.
With some nice toast.
No, hours to prepare my fried egg.
And he goes on, and Reinhardt goes on to say, food is a haven for reactionaries. It's like, what the...
hang on, we're reactionaries by enjoying food?
Yeah, wasting time on it.
Stuck in our bodies.
Yeah.
You reactionary body-having person.
I suppose he's waiting to be uploaded as well.
Of course he is.
So this constant push to work harder wasn't invented by Lifehacker or Tim Ferriss, etc. So modern industrial corporate folks have been pushing themselves to work harder for decades. So the question is, what happens when we push and push and push and push and push our working selves? And who are the ultimate super duper double plus mega work hard champion winners? It's good slurry.
Welcome to the Wholesome Show, a science podcast where we tell stories for you if you are the kind of person who sits at the back of the class. If you're at the front of the class...
Yeah, stop listening.
You can listen, but move to the back. That's where people can tell dirty jokes while the lecturer is saying stuff.
At the back, you're eating gourmet duck. At the front, you're drinking
exactly.
slurry.
You can't eat your gourmet duck at the front of the lecture theatre.
No. At the back of the lecture theatre, you could eat a live duck and it wouldn't matter.
I still remember, I didn't do well in this stats class. My friends and I would be up the back making sandwiches. It's not even eating sandwiches, making sandwiches.
What you got? I got a little Jarlsberg. I'm out of mustard.
The Wholesome Show is me, Will Grant, and...
me, Dr. Roderick Griffin. I will have my food fresh from the farm Lamberts.
And is brought to you by the Australian National Centre for the Public Awareness of Science.
And working harder That's not that far off, actually.
I-
But, you know.
No. Look, I don't
We
believe
admire hard work.
we may participate in awareness of the issues of working too hard.
I like to think of myself as a participant in awareness. I agree. Yeah, I do participate in being aware. So, which countries?
Champions. You left me on champions of working harder.
Yeah. So here you go. I can give you a little, give you a chance to guess. Which countries do the most work hours?
It feels like
me
if
your
I
top three.
no, if I guess anything, it's racist.
Doesn't have to be. It depends if you say those
All right,
non-white
okay.
fuckers.
I'm gonna guess.
I'm going to bet before you guess that you won't get any of the top three.
Are you really? Okay. All right. I'm guessing New Zealand, Liechtenstein, and Chad.
Holy shit, that's all of them.
Is it?
No. So, according to at least OECD data, this is weekly hours, and they divided annual hours by 52. So, assuming for the purposes of comparison, everyone works 52-week year, which we damn well do not in this country.
No, indeed, we don't.
But it's for comparison. So, number one, according to this, Mexico.
Number one, Mexico.
Yeah.
Oh.
41 and a bit hours a week on average
Hang on. So this is
over 52 weeks.
but for all adults or all working adults?
It wasn't clear. Working adults, I assume, because it wouldn't include people who don't work because you can't measure their work hours.
Yeah. Okay.
They mean
All right.
work for money.
Hang
They
on,
don't
what was that?
mean
41.
41 and a half.
Okay, so I'm not horrified by that, given that
On average.
I know that our enterprise bargain agreement says we should work 35, but a 40-hour
And
week
one day I'm going to reach that.
and 40-hour week is sort of the most common form of agreement. Like,
Sure.
so 41 is not terrible.
No.
Okay, that's better. I thought you were going to say, and the Mexicans work 101 hours, and
Yeah.
and then they have to give blood to their employer.
It's going to things might get messier than these numbers.
Oh,
Number 2, Costa Rica,
Is it really?
41 hours
Okay, so the same. So we're going with a bit of a Latin American thing here.
so far until this one.
Okay.
Number 3, South Korea.
Yeah, okay. That actually might have been in my guess if I wasn't being silly. But
Can I guess what your number 1 was? It would have been. You were going to say Japan?
I was actually going to say Japan and Australia if I was being serious.
Yeah. Everyone wants to say Japan.
Yeah.
So on this table, Japan comes in 21st,
Okay.
Australia 22nd.
Although I knew we were close. That's what I knew. I
We're like
knew
that.
Japan and Australia were like that. Our work ethic is basically the same.
That's the real win.
Sorry, Japanese listeners. Our work ethic is not the same.
No. Oh, yours might be. Mine isn't. I guarantee mine isn't. Mine is different. But see, here's the thing with Japan, and we're going to talk a bit more about them.
Yeah.
The statistics are often misleading because what they don't count, and probably for many of them, but particularly Japan now, is what Japan calls, inverted commas, air quotes, whatever, free overtime.
Oh, yeah. Okay. and by free, you mean you give it to your boss?
Yeah.
You could use the word unpaid. Unpaid is more true than free.
Both from the boss's perspective, really. Call it what you want.
Are you saying that there is overtime that is not counted in those hours there?
1 or 2 hours
Oh, okay. All right.
every minute. So there are other tallies, unlike the OECD one, that says at least 1 in 3 men between the ages of 30 and 40 work more than 60 hours a week.
Wow.
At least half of them say they get no overtime. Factory workers often arrive early and stay late and they don't get paid. Training at weekends is often uncompensated. So that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's a generalisation. So let's track that for a moment.
Yep.
Mid-1980s, around 7 million people, it's about 5% of the country's population in Japan, were doing more than 60-hour work weeks. Let's go to 1989. Nearly half of all the section chiefs and 2/3 of department chiefs in major companies were concerned they might die from overwork.
Oh, damn. Nearly half were concerned they might die.
Yeah, and that's the section chiefs.
Oh my
2/3
God.
of department chiefs.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it makes you whinge.
I think it's horrible for anyone to be concerned that they might die from overwork. And
Can you imagine your performance review? Any concerns? I'm worried I might die. From what? The job?
but it shouldn't be that common. It really shouldn't.
No. Well, let's dig deeper.
Mind you, if you're in a company and every other department chief, all of them except for one, are concerned they might die from overwork, and Neville over there, Neville's like,
What about
it's
you?
fine.
It's fucking great. I only just got in and it's time to go. It's fantastic. Only in Japanese.
Yeah, they might be looking askance at that point.
They might. So in 2016, there was a report that said it's not uncommon for young employees in Japan to work long hours. We know this. Yep. Bosses expect young employees still working their way up the corporate ladder to arrive early and leave late, often late into the night. And every trip I've had to Japan, I've seen this anecdotally live. Every time I've been in an even large-ish town near a bar, it's really quite horrifying watching some of these wasted, horribly tired men, classic salary men.
Yeah.
For example, Takahiro Onuki, he's a 31-year-old salesman. He would often arrive, or does often arrive, at 8 a.m. and leaves at midnight.
Oh, leaves at midnight?
Yeah, and he only sees his wife on the weekends.
Oh.
That's cool. Yeah. And this is the same for countless other Japanese employees, many who work white-collar jobs in very rigid hierarchies, and advancement is earned through backbreaking effort. People very rarely leave their jobs because finding a new one means you start from scratch. It's unusual to be moved across that level.
Yeah, you're back at the bottom.
Yeah. So you've got a generation devoted to working like crazy, and they have to look like they're devoted to their work. And the best way to show that is to be there a shitload.
And work a shitload.
Or at least be there a shitload. I mean,
and work a shitload.
Yeah, and work a shitload.
And be there.
Well, it could be both. It could be either. So the Japanese like to demonstrably be seen to be liking to do a lot of work.
Okay.
So how far will they take it?
No.
Welcome to the story.
No.
In 2002, I'll just take a sip of my work beverage, my slurry. Delicious.
Slurry doesn't make that sound. Slurry is a much slower slurp.
Everything I drink sounds like that. Solids and liquids. 2002, 30-year-old Kenichi Uchino collapsed at work at 4 a.m. He died.
Oh.
He had put in more than 80 hours of overtime every month for the 6 months preceding his death.
80 hours of overtime.
So at least 20 hours a week for 6 months solid.
Yeah, okay.
In the week leading up to his death, his wife said, he said to his wife, the moment I'm happiest is when I can sleep.
Of course it is.
He had, of course, 2 children, one age 1 and one age 3.
Jesus. And how many hours has he actually seen those children?
I think pretty much never. It would have to have been pretty much never.
I mean, if he's working those hours in that lead-up point.
Yep.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, sounds horrific. So Mr. Uchino-san was a quality control manager and a third-generation employee of Toyota.
Okay. Wow, of Toyota. Okay. I if we were going to go corporate cultures, I would have guessed some would be more modern and progressive and some would be less, but I would have thought Toyota would be okay. All right.
They're not that unmodern and progressive. So he's a quality control manager. When he wasn't on the production line, he was constantly training workers, going to meetings and writing reports. Toyota treated almost all of that time, that extra stuff, as voluntary and unpaid.
Oh, my God.
So did the Toyota Labour Standards Inspection Office, which is part of the Labour Ministry.
Hang on, the Toyota Labour Standards Inspection Office. They had their own special.
Yeah, I don't know how that works.
They had their own special Labour Standards Inspection Office that was part of the government.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
That seems a little bit close.
I don't see a problem. With
Independence might be useful here.
I don't know what you're talking about. It's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine. So they were basically, in essence, arguing that it was not their fault that he did all this work because he did it himself.
He volunteered.
We weren't paying him. That's because he was volunteering.
He loved it so much.
Yep. So this is 2002. But on November the 30th, 2007, the Nagoya District Court ruled that the long hours were an integral part of his job. So that means they accepted his wife, Hiroko's claim that Kenichi, or Mr. Uchino, had experienced what they call karoshi, which is a Japanese word that literally translates as death by overwork.
If we were going to bring in a word from a different culture, and we do that all the time in English, and I'm sure we've got tsunami being a great Japanese word, karoshi, death from overwork, would be a word that we could incorporate. And I'm gonna learn, you too, listener, karoshi. And
it might be a long A, it might be karoshi.
Karoshi. Okay.
I haven't written it down.
Look. No, you also, as the English language as interpreted by Australians, you get to mangle it a bit.
Fuck yeah, you do. Karoshi.
It's a tsunami.
Yeah, and it's karoshi. Karoshi.
Arigato.
Oh, we were in Japan and we were in a little restaurant in the middle of the night and pissing with snow. And this woman came in and she was like the ad from the McDonald's, do you have any chippies? She had a long fur coat that ran down her ankles. It's the middle of the night. She's wearing her ski goggles because it was a bit snowy. And she started chatting with us because we were clearly Westerners. And it turns out she's from Australia. And she's going, oh, it's just so fun. All of it's so fun. And what is it? Thank you. Is it Origoritori?
Look, there, but
said,
the grace of God
yes,
do go I. You know, I
would love to see you in a knee length.
I have mangled many an accent, so...
But you at least try.
That could be worse.
She was not trying.
Okay.
Is it Origoritori? Anyway, 2013, an International Labour Organization article wrote about Karoshi. Here are 4 typical cases that they mentioned.
4 typical cases, okay.
Mr. A. So, you fudged out the name. Mr. A worked at a major snack food processing company for as much as 110 hours a week. Not a month,
110?
a week.
How many hours are there in a week?
Not much more than that. What do we got?
No one could possibly do
4
the maths.
4 days is like 100.
100,
so 175.
It's 164.
Yeah, there you go. So that's a lot.
110 out of 164.
Yeah, that's quite a bit. Yeah. He died from a heart attack at the age of 34.
Whoa. I kind of feel that heart attack and anyone below the age, I think 40s and above you're allowed. It's not good.
Still dodgy.
But in your 30s you should be.
I think you need to be
to
at least. But at mid 50s you go, oh fuck, that's a bit much. But
30.
less than that, no. His death was recognised as work related by the Labour Standards Office, so that's nice.
Did they have? Was that the Snack Foods Labour Standards Office?
Yeah, I think that might have been just the generic one under which all the sponsored ones probably sit. Mr. B, a bus driver.
Mr. B, bus driver.
Mr. B, the bus driver. B for bus. His death was also recognised as work-related. He would work more than 3,000 hours a year, which if you divide that by 52 is about 58 hours a week if you worked every week.
And he's also in charge of passengers.
Yeah, lives
so
and shit.
Snack Foods, I feel sorry for Mr. A. It's horrendous.
Look at you remembering his name. That's respect.
I know. Look, but worst comes to worst, you get some biscuits wrong.
Yeah.
Whereas Mr. B, I feel like you might be having a few micro sleeps on the job there that might
turn people into biscuits. Mm-hmm. So he did that amount, 58 hours a week over a 52-hour week. He did not have a day off in the 15 days before he had a stroke at the age of 37.
Stroke at 37?
Stroke at the age of 37. Obviously, terminal. Mr. C worked in a large printing company in Tokyo.
I was going to say cat food. Cars.
Cat food's fine. He worked 4,320 hours a year, so it's about 83 hours a week if you divide it over 52 weeks.
Wow, okay.
Including night work. He died from a stroke at the age of 58. Mm-hmm. His widow did receive workers' compensation a mere 14 years after he died.
14?
Yeah, so that's pretty quick.
Sure. You got to process the paperwork properly.
Well, you've got to be precise. And the writing system is very complex.
It is.
Miss D, so there was one lady, 22-year-old nurse, died from a heart attack.
What?
Yeah, 22, died from a heart attack after 34 hours of continuous duty at least 5 times a month.
Holy shit.
So at least 5 times a month.
She died from a heart attack 5 times a month?
Yeah, I know. No. She's fucking determined. I want to get this
34
right.
hours of continuous duty.
At least 5 times a month, she would do at least a 34-hour solid lump. Plus, obviously, it's probably the standard 14 hours.
I wonder. I mean, are these all people that literally died in the job? Because I wonder how many are dying soon after. You know that it's the car crashes on the way home, the mistakes when you take the.
And this is where it gets messy. This is where Karoshi gets messy. So there's quite a history to it. So the actual first case of Karoshi was reported in 1969.
Okay.
So it went back a long way. So a dude died of a stroke. He was 29. He was in the shipping department of Japan's biggest newspaper, which I forgot the name. The case was initially called back then, 69, occupational sudden death. It's fine. It doesn't sound as romantic as Karoshi.
Yeah, but it sounds like the sudden death sounds a little bit like spontaneous human combustion to me.
It does.
So you change sudden to spontaneous.
But death is like that, though. 1 minute you're alive, and then you're not alive.
Yeah, that's true.
So he had shift work, an increased workload. He had excessive overwork in spite of his ill health before the stroke. They were finally recognised by the Workers' Compensation Bureau as the causes of death. It took 5 years for his family to get compensation. So that was the first case that was retrospectively acknowledged as Karoshi. During the 70s, there'd been no reports of Karoshi deaths in Western industrialised countries. because everyone was focused on this whole type A thing, type A personality.
What is that?
So, type A is where you're really fast, you're always trying to achieve, you're very outspoken, you do everything clickety-click. And it was
You're
always...
on coke.
Yeah, you're on coke.
Yeah.
But without needing the coke. So
Sounds
type
nice.
A personalities are super motivated, super driven. It tends to be, at least as it was researched, associated with high blood pressure.
Yeah, okay.
All the classics. And it was always in the West associated with like managers and up-and-comers and senior people doing the business, doing the Wall Street, blah, blah, blah. So the Japanese saw it through the research literature and went, oh, that's interesting. But we don't really think that because we don't think it's related because comparatively few of the people who got Karoshi were executives or managers in 1970.
It's happening lower down in
it was everyday folks. So it was people who were shift workers, drivers, newspaper, television workers, construction workers, and sales dudes.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, they're not the same as these type A folks from the West, so it's something else. But it wasn't until the pressure from the victims' wives and colleagues of the victims who started to push physicians to investigate it that they started to go, oh, there's something else going on here.
Yeah, okay.
You don't have to be an executive. Which begs the question, how do you decide it's Karoshi?
I don't know. If you work a lot. Is that it? Is that it?
That's it. He died. He's 98. He died because he worked a lot.
There you go.
Fuck you. So medical causes of Karoshi deaths tend to be, on average, generally, heart attack and stroke.
Yeah, of course.
Cerebral hemorrhage, thromboses and other infarctions, myocardial infarction, heart failure is very popular.
What's an infarction?
It's bad.
Yeah, okay.
It's when...
I'm happy with that.
Normally you like it when it farts, but if it infarcts, then you're really in trouble.
Look,
Psychon podcast people.
I wasn't helping, but infarction is a big word, and I know it's bad. It's
you
bad.
made me define it, and that's important.
Okay.
For both our listeners. That's the foreign ones. So that was what was going on. So how do you define it? That was one of the early stuff. And it was not until 1987 that the Ministry of Labour started to publish statistics on Karoshi. Before that...
Was it the Toyota Ministry of Labour?
This was just a straight-up Ministry of Labour.
The non-sponsored Ministry of Labour.
Look at us.
Yeah.
Free and independent. So they didn't start talking about it, but it was going on, obviously, since, in theory, retrospectively, 1969. In the 90s, late 90s, there was this big report, and I read it. It was kind of scholarly.
Look at you.
I know.
You read a Japanese government report from the 1990s.
In English, though. I mean, I'm good, but... So they said, look, there's no epidemiologically sound estimates of the prevalence of death from Karoshi. It's very hard to measure. So there was only a few recorded up until the late 1990s. But the critics reckon the number of people the ministry compensates for these deaths, and up until then it was 20 to 60 a year. 20 to 60 a year were compensated.
Japan's a big country.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's at least 25 to 70. So they're saying it's very hard to be sure who was getting compensated, whether they were actually suffering from it, etc. The overall number of deaths related to heart diseases, etc., in the 20 to 59 age group is like 35,000 a year.
Yeah, that's
so
a
20
lot
to
more.
60 is a fairly large percentage.
That's a lot more.
So the estimates are that roughly a third of those are probably work related.
Yeah, okay.
So here's a better one.
You know what I'll flip out though. I kind of think what if all those people were given a salary and didn't have to work?
What are you talking about?
How many of them would have had the heart attack? I think
6.
maybe yes, there might be some that are just
fuck all
putting twisties into their veins. But other than that, I think you take work out of the equation, and probably a lot of people will be like, "Damn, I'm healthier suddenly." I don't know why. I don't know why. What it is?
This shit will never be solved.
Maybe it's the fact I look at waterfalls a lot more.
Unsolvable, and work on your sand garden.
Oh,
those are very blissful. Not good.
I just watch
Not good
YouTube
for you.
videos about working on sound gardens. That's enough. That's enough.
Don't you watch the train journey ones?
I watch lots of things.
Thought you might. So how do we? Here's a good way to find out how people define it. Let's check out some workers' compensation policy. I know you're excited.
Who thought, listener, when you press play on this, that bloody hell, that Rod, who normally does some sort of story on people playing with their own poo, and he's like, no, I'm gonna be all like workers' compensation
Japanese
in this episode.
workers' compensation from the late 90s. Get comfy.
You and me, listener, we're in this boat together. We're in this boat together.
And I apologise. I've trimmed out just the interesting bits.
I'm kind of thinking, is this Rod's cry for help? Is it?
It's true. I'm blinking a lot.
I'm working too hard.
I'm feeling I'm sort of Karosh-ish. So the Japanese government was...
Obviously, listener, this podcast is usually recorded between the hours of 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. on a Tuesday night or a Sunday night.
Between email answering.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
That's what we do. We what's our motto? We give a shit.
No, my motto is answer another email. That is in Latin. Answer us another emails.
El mille te coanamus.
So fili mi boni bene.
Vini vidi vici?
Yeah, that one too.
So the Japanese government was reluctant not only to even conduct an investigation
Of course.
into it, so because they were particularly reluctant to compensate people for it. So they weren't in a hurry.
I don't actually know why the government is actually in need of, I mean, sure, government has workers, and I don't doubt there are government workers dying of Karoshi.
They do legislation.
Yes.
You probably didn't know that.
I know they do, but they also don't necessarily, they would then say someone else provides the compensation.
Like the Toyota Labour.
So government legislation here might ask for compensation from the...
I feel like this might be culturally related, and we're going to talk about that.
All right, cool.
And by we, I mean I.
Yeah, I'm here to listen.
Yeah, damn right. So the compensation policy, as a rule, is based on the notion of accidental death. Accidental death. And this matters.
Sure, but can't you be compensated for some sort of deliberate death too?
Like my boss shot me. It's not a work thing. Just
no compensation
like
for
Fuck
that.
Yeah, he thought you were an arsehole, and you are. So the problem is that obscures the health consequences of long-term exposures to situations that are a normal part of...
Accidental death is like you accidentally walked into the newspaper printing machine.
Yeah.
That sounds like an accident. It's bad.
inked.
And there should have been those yellow lines around it that stopped you from doing it.
Which they do.
Yes, but not the same as you worked really hard, therefore it's an accident. It can't really be an accident if that's...
Well, and that's kind of what they're angling for. It's very difficult to prove an accidental death in the case of these sorts of...
No, that was our deliberate culture. No, not at all.
Yeah,
no, that was deliberate.
And also he wasn't working, he was volunteering.
Yes, indeed.
That was unpaid. So they're saying that part of this is it's to do a lot with this notion of, and this is capital letters, Japanese Production Management, JPM, which I will get to in a tick.
Yeah.
So the Ministry of Labour asks workers if they want to make a complaint, they have to prove that the Karoshi victim was engaged in extremely burdensome work or was injured in an accident, that the event had greatly exceeded the normal workload, or the person had greatly exceeded the normal workload just before, or at least on the same day as their heart attack, stroke, or whatever.
Okay, can't have a heart attack on an easy day.
Nope.
Like if you've done 400,000 hours in the week before, but then you have a day off, and then you know.
Do you know there's there is almost literally that, literally. So, and one of this source, I love it, the Ministry of Labour's confidential manual, not the public manual.
This sounds like that Karl Marx is like, I know they got in there. They got the confidential manual that says,
I was right.
brutalize the workers or something like that.
Almost. So it says here, overwork could be the cause of death only if the worker was engaged continuously for 24 hours just before death, or worked at least 16 hours a day for 7 consecutive days before the death. And pertinent to what you just said also, just one day off during the week prior to collapse disqualifies the Karoshi death
from
compensation.
I mean, you got to actually be overworking.
1 day.
It's not overworking if you didn't overwork.
If they had 1 day off, even though they've been insane for the days before, it doesn't cover it. So, of course, Karoshi is often considered to be a socially constructed disease. It's a social...
Well, it's not even a disease. I mean, it's yes, there's a socio-cultural construct around that are making people work that much, but it's not actually a disease in that sense. It's people working too much and then suddenly dying because they work too much.
From other things, multiple causes. But, this is how it's being talked about. I'm just... reflecting the literature.
You may come to this, but I would assume that Karoshi can happen in other cultures.
Yeah, we'll come to that.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. God, you're good.
I know. It's almost like it's not culturally bound. It's capitalism bound.
What are you talking about?
Capitalism. I told you Karl Marx was going to tell us the secrets.
Love money.
And
do you know what I like more than money? More money.
Speedboats.
Yeah, which is more money. Platinum plated on a different podcast. Karoshi is often considered wrong. So Japanese scientists have not been able to agree on a single definition, no surprise. What kinds of deaths are, pivotal to be involved, and whether only death should be included in Karoshi. So Karoshi, sorry. So it could...
You were just incapacitated by your heart attack. Not enough.
You're not dead. Can't be Karoshi, because Karoshi means worked yourself to death, mate. Ooh, our light went out. Is that a sign? Last drinks, gentlemen.
You just don't notice stuff, man. Just don't.
And I'm painting a word picture for the people who aren't watching us on video.
No, your brain is just distractible.
That's true too, says the man with the most severely undiagnosed ADHD.
No, but I know.
In this room.
I know.
So Karoshi is argued it can also include deaths related to delayed medical treatment because you don't have enough free time to see a doctor.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And of course,
yeah, you've got like a case of worms, and they're literally the worms are
they're coming out your navel,
your butt, and you can see the worms crawling under your legs.
But you've got a bus to drive.
But you got a bus to drive, and you got no time to see a doctor.
Yep. So argument is that should be also Karoshi.
Of course it is. That's so horrible.
And also
That's
far less
so
amusingly,
horrible.
Suicides attributed to overwork.
Yes. Far. Why did you say that in the? I was still amused at the other thing.
Threw you under that bus, the guy with the
didn't it?
worms. So some Karoshi victims have died due to, according to certain positions, diabetic coma, rupture of the esophageal vein related to liver malfunction, peptic ulcers, bronchial asthma, and on it goes. So obvious deaths is probably the only clear indicator, and there are so many more. So some researchers say it may be typical, this syndrome, let's call it, of a new class of occupational disorders that the Japanese refer to as gurika byo, or diseases of rationalization.
Oh, are we saying you've just been rationalized? You're the cog in the machine?
Well, more that rationalization is a shorthand for the ways in which people justify the pressures of the work culture that arose in 20th century Japan. So this is why we go to
21st.
No, 20th.
Well, we're in 21st now.
But this is how it began. So Japanese Production Management, JPM.
Yeah.
I mentioned this before. So case studies indicate the main reason for overwork is rooted in the very nature of JPM itself. So corporate society has been infused with JPM ideology so much that working 24 hours a day is seen as exemplary.
Of course it is.
If not ideal behavior.
Yeah.
And I love this quote. The social atmosphere is such that a pharmaceutical company advertised a new beverage in a television commercial with the song, "Can you fight 24 hours a day for your corporation?" The answer is simple. No, I can't.
I like that Coke goes with like images of you on the beach, like bouncing out of
It's
like
the
an
real
amazing
thing.
and it's fun and it's fun and
Look at hot people you can root.
they're laser like in there saying they have a better life than you because everyone in the Coke ad is having an awesome
Every
time.
damn one. They're eating and drinking whatever they want. They're playing with hot people.
But they're not saying work 24/7 for your corporation.
and if you can't, work
All right,
harder.
here's my challenge to you,
Okay.
listener who is in charge of a beverage company in the world. Come out with a new ad, potentially in Australia, advertising your beverage as 24/7 work for your corporation. You know what? I would actually drink it. I would actually. I don't even drink soft drink, but suddenly I would be like,
if you did.
give me that soft drink because 24/7 work for your corporation. There's a long time ago. There was a T-shirt on The Onion, and it said, "I just love big corporations."
Because they're people too?
They are. Well, whether or not, I just think it's yeah.
So
I'm gonna get that 24/7 work for your
please,
corporation.
can you get it in a small for you and an extra large?
Actually, I'll put it up in the Wholesome T-shirt shop.
You should, because I don't have a lot of visuals for this, so you could tweet about it.
Yeah, there you go.
People like pretty pictures. So this whole JPM thing, Japanese Production Management, relates to this concept of Kaizen, which is continuous improvement.
I hope all of these Japanese words will be on the test later.
Kaizen, continuous. You only need to know Karoshi and Kaizen.
There was another one you said before.
Ignore it. No, that was too confusing.
Okay.
I'll get to one that will be harder. So Kaizen is continuous improvement.
That's not a bad thing. I mean, resting on your laurels is fine, but the whole thing of resting on your laurels has been said to be not what you should do. So,
Because laurels are very uncomfortable. They're spiky. You've seen them. They stick behind the ears.
I don't know.
They're made of mistletoe and shit.
yeah, I feel like who has enough laurels to actually rest on? Like, is it like Caesar? Like they've thrown their laurels and Caesar is like, I haven't done
on a
that.
laurel pile. What else am I going to do? But like for me, it would be like resting on a leaf because I don't have many.
You do it though. Like if suddenly you've got a pile of laurels, you'd be like, what else can I possibly do?
They look
here?
like I should rest on them. I'm going to get comfy. So Kaizen, continuous improvement, it depends on workers' contributions through things like suggestion programs or small group activities.
Suggestion
programs.
So this sounds a little bit...
Sounds great. It's inclusive. It's giving people a go. It also talks about small group activities geared to solving problems.
This is what we give our students in the classroom.
Welcome to Kaizen at ANU.
Here, give me a glass.
So, the goal with these activities is to get workers to support cost-cutting measures, accept job reductions, participate with management in changing work processes.
So we're looking for some suggestions in the realm
to get rid of you fucks.
Who should have jobs and who shouldn't have jobs. So any suggestions?
Whoever loses the most jobs today is the winner.
Is it Neville? Like, is anyone else suggesting Neville? So
it's always Kenichi.
Yeah, well, yeah. I was just going to guess a Neville is a generic name here.
There probably are a lot of Nevilles in Japan, but they would say it differently.
Possibly.
I'm not going to get into
Possibly. I don't know what the Neville equivalent in Japan is.
But I like this. Kaizen involves more than just participating in all this. It encourages workers to treat each other as suppliers and customers or competitors rather than co-workers. How sweet's that?
Yeah.
Isn't that sweet?
I'm hurting already.
So JPM also focuses on this. You'll love this then. If you were hurting before, you're going to need ointment after this. It focuses on reducing the cost of labour through the elimination of what they call waste.
Yeah, sure. I've heard that. I mean, waste is bad. Like,
Isn't it? Should we get into... There's a lot of categories for waste.
Well, but like nose to tail eating and stuff like that, it's not good to...
I always eat with my nose near my tail.
No, but it's not good to kill a cow to just eat your ribeye fillet.
Yeah, you got to eat its hooves as well.
Or its eyeballs, if that's your favourite bit. But you should eat
the
it
hooves,
all.
the skin, the hair, all of it.
Yeah.
The date. You're welcome. So waste is defined in JPM as anything that is not absolutely essential to production. For example, slack time, waiting time, walking time, holidays and vacations, resting time, walking space at workstations.
Holidays and vacations.
Yeah. Any kind of indirect labour such as skilled trades and maintenance workers. Rest times, bathroom breaks, time to wipe away sweat.
Time to wipe away sweat.
Waste.
Are you really losing moments there when you are wiping sweat away? This will be the reason the company failed, that we spent too much time wiping
that
our...
shithead wiped his eye.
Let the sweat into your face.
Yeah.
You are wasting... That is ridiculous.
No, man, that's waste. So it's kind of like, I won't go into, Taylorism in the, early 1900s in America.
Well, all of this. It all goes back to Marx. It's like he wrote this with the idea of bosses as draconian and always trying to turn workers into cogs. Into cogs.
Yeah.
Into cogs.
Replaceable elements in a production line.
Who have who do no waste. There is no waste in there. But you know what? We have bodies. Oh my God. Sweat. That will break the company. If your company, listen to this, bosses. If your company is on the line because of the amount of time that workers are wiping
finger
sweat,
to your eye,
I think you should look at the profit margins in a different way.
There
Get
may
into
be
a new
other
industry.
fish to fry.
Pivot, motherfucker. Seriously. Like, if sweat is your problem. Oh, Jesus Christ.
I am not going to disagree with that. So how did it all kick in? How did this JPM, I've already forgot one of these Japanese progress monsters.
Can I guess?
Sure.
Combination of capitalism and Japanese culture?
Broadly speaking, yes.
There you go.
You're not wrong.
You're going to tell me the precise answer.
I'm going to be Pacific about it. So it traced back to the aftermath of World War II, which is pretty much what you said. So during the early 50s, the Prime Minister at the time, Shigeru Yoshida, made rebuilding Japan's economy his number one priority.
Okay.
And you can see why. They
No, but no one after a war says my number one priority is
lounge chairs.
Lounge chairs,
daiquiris.
Nice food. We will go straight to Michelin star restaurants on every corner.
That's it, and a comfy pillow in every house. Yeah. No. So this is what he prioritized. So he got top major corporations and he got them to offer their employees lifelong job security, asking that all the workers did was repay them with their loyalty.
Doesn't sound bad. Doesn't sound bad. I mean, there's other ways to do capitalism, but lifelong security is not a terrible thing.
And look, particularly, not so much these days, but up until not that long ago, the idea that you wouldn't leave the place you first got your job was extremely attractive.
Oh, totally. That's why you would fight 24/7 for your corporation.
Yeah, because you were always employed.
No, I get it. I
mean, always employed. So it worked really well because Japan's economy became and is still the third largest in the world. And this is very clearly linked back to Yoshida's efforts.
Yeah.
I mean, third largest is not small.
No, it's smaller than number 2 and number 1, but it's bigger than number 4.
If you're going to get technical.
Bigger than number 4.
Which is probably California on its own. But anyway. But of course, this means work hours started to shoot up. So workers got a very low base pay, so they had to work hard to get extra benefits. So there was low allowances for overtime, for night shifts. Workers would do more and more hours. They would skip holidays, and on it would go. And it got to the point where both white and blue-collar workers would have to do homework, which they called furoshiki zangyu, which meant wrapped work. Homework. I don't know why they call it wrapped work, as in wrapping paper, wrapped up. But
okay. Yeah, it's bundled in.
Yep, lots of homework.
Here's another thing. If I was going to throw in Japanese culture plus capitalism, throw in another thing where they're not building a consumer society. So in America, after the World War II, they had a huge consumer society, richest country in the world, and they bought a lot of things, and so they want to actually spend a bunch of time to use those things.
Yeah.
And I imagine this is what China is going through at the moment. But I imagine in Japan they didn't have much of a consumer mentality. If you're working that many hours, then you're not buying your own goods.
I don't know.
You're shipping things out. I wonder if they're shipping things out to America.
I think it might have been a bit of both, because I mean, look, I can't speak for the 50s, but the first time I went to Japan was 2000, 2001, and I was hanging out with a buddy who'd been living there for a while, and I met a bunch of young folk. Like, I was young then, 20s to 30s.
This was the 50s, right?
Yeah, 50s, 1950s. Yep. But they were all working 7 days a week in at least 2 jobs, but they would party. So the moment they weren't at work,
sure,
and like, I mean, there was,
sure.
But they would also buy things. So like,
yeah, I get it.
There was a girl who worked. The one I met, one of the ones I particularly met, she was working.
Particularly met.
I met her more than once. So,
okay.
Well, why would you read anything into that? So, she was working as a receptionist in an onsen, like a bathhouse, and then she was also working as a receptionist somewhere else, 7 days a week. But when she went out at night, she was wearing like freaking like what's the Coco Chanel suits and stuff.
Okay. No.
So they would spend a lot of money.
I'm not saying
famous Japanese designer.
I'm not saying they didn't, but I think there is a capacity limit of how much you can possibly spend.
There is,
and it's just an orientation around a consumer society or an export society. And I think that may
they did start export. Yeah, they were very exporty.
Like the Ford factory was built around the idea that the factory workers would need to earn enough to be able to buy one. Then it becomes a virtuous cycle, as much as the Ford factory is not virtuous, but a virtuous cycle of you're building capacity and you're building a consumer society.
Yeah. So I don't. Yeah, you're right. I don't think, at least to begin with, it was a highly consumer society. Boy, has that shit changed. But it wasn't at the time, not in the early days. So 1982, we've moved on from the late 50s. 1982, the first book, which was entitled Karoshi, was published by 3 doctors, and it was the first time the term came up.
Yep.
So 82. They pulled together a bunch of case studies, and they were trying to find causal links between the work and the disorders. So the case studies indicated that Karoshi deaths were associated with long working hours, shift work, and irregular work schedules. And most of the people they talked to were doing at least 3,000 hours a year, which is at least 58 hours a week before their deaths. At least 58 hours. So you're basically talking, you have to do, a 12-hour day, at least 5 days a week to do that.
But they're not doing 5 days a week.
No, they're not. No. So in 1988 then, a labour force survey said that at least a quarter of the male workers were doing more than 60 hours a week. And that was when a National Defence Council for Victims of Karoshi was established, 1988, by a bunch of lawyers.
A National Defence Council?
Yeah.
It's taking it seriously?
Yeah. And they set up a Karoshi hotline in all the sort of major cities in prefectures.
Have you died of Karoshi? Call here.
Give us a ring.
Yeah.
We're standing by to take your call, and we will offer you legal advice pro bono. In the 1990s, so in 1990 itself, this book was published in English. The title, Karoshi, When the Corporate Warrior Dies.
Yeah. It might be glorifying it a little bit.
I don't see it.
I just think.
What do you mean?
I just think we could have gone with maybe they're the victim rather than
poor son of a bitch at the bottom of a pile dies.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe something like that. That's what I would have gone with. Yeah. That's what I would have gone with.
So not quite a warrior.
I mean, I know they might have seen themselves as a warrior, but yeah.
Narrator's note: they're not. They're warriors for survival. I'll give them that. So that was published in English, and that's when it entered English language.
No, now is when it's entered the English language.
This is the first time.
Yeah.
In the late 90s, like the source just says, a big life insurance company investigated 500 male white-collar workers in top-ranking corporations in Tokyo. Here's what they found. The report showed that 46% of respondents were anxious about their own risk of karoshi, so basically half.
Are you personally worried about your risk of karoshi?
Not even a little bit.
I too. Like, I would
Not
say
even
that
a little.
0% of the workers in the Wholesome show are worried about their risk of karoshi.
I don't know what the reverse of karoshi is.
I could work
but
less.
Yeah,
I could work less.
Yeah, I could too. I should.
But I don't feel like I'm about to karoshi myself.
I can't even imagine a world where we haven't grown
No, I
up
can
in a world
imagine
where
it.
that's motivated.
No, I can. But no, yeah, yes, no, yes, no. I know many people around who I'm looking at and I'm going, ooh, some life choices here that you are on heart attack track.
Oh, in our, let's say, reasonably immediate surroundings?
Let's go.
Not
Let's
in
go
this
within
room.
wide enough network. Yeah, outside of this room, but wide enough network that I definitely but within the borders of Australia.
Oh, yeah.
I can definitely see colleagues, friends, associates who I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
Are you really should be you doing that?
Well, we had, and this doesn't give it away, but we had a senior female person in our particular college or faculty
Industry.
or whatever. Yeah. Oh, in our faculty. She had a heart attack, which is very unusual for the ladies anyway, to have an obvious heart attack.
It's not.
No, she had an obvious, like she had a dude heart attack. It was really clear and apparent.
Only when they have a dude heart attack does it come in.
Then it matters.
Sexism in action.
Dude lives matter.
You gotta have you gotta have a dude heart attack for it to be real. I mean, you just had a lady heart attack, but that one.
But you know, that's one of the things with heart attacks. Apparently, women's heart attacks aren't as apparent, therefore they go far less diagnosed.
Look, potentially,
as well.
but women have heart attacks at
A
nearly
lot.
the same
A
rate,
lot, yeah.
and it is not as noticed. Yes, and not as diagnosed.
So she was answering emails within a few days from a hospital bed.
That's what you do.
Yep.
I mean, you're in hospital bed. I mean, you look at the TV
What
and
else
you
you
go,
gonna do?
"What the frick is on TV?
How can I
I'll
be
answer
productive?
some emails."
I'll do a hack. I'll be more productive. So the corporate warrior dies. So
You know that would be it. Answer
Fuck that.
how to answer emails from your hospital bed.
Oh,
You know,
I've
get a
got to
little
sell
stick.
1 million copies. Nearly dead.
There you go.
How to stay at work.
Oh,
Fuck me.
I don't know if you're going to cover this. There's a good tweet.
Oh, I didn't cover that tweet.
No, there's a good one. It went around a little while ago. European out of office emails.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm on holiday. I'll be back in 2 months. I'm on holiday camping naked.
Yeah.
I'll be back in 2 months. Email me then. American out of office hours. Sorry, I'm away for 2 hours having kidney surgery. I'll reply to you as soon as I possibly can.
And Australians are like, I could probably push through the anaesthetic as well.
Oh, look, yeah, I don't like to think which camp we're in.
Oh, with that one. So this report on 500 white-collar workers in the late 1990s. So the 46% who were anxious about their own risk. This fear of the risk increased as they got older. So as you got older, you worked harder and more scared you were going to die from work.
Yeah, okay.
And the report also showed that family members were even more afraid for the workers than the workers themselves,
Sure.
which is fucking horrifying.
Well, yes, and depending on what the family members were, and like, yeah, that would be.
It's horrifying.
Yeah.
It's horrifying. We move into the naughty. So we already heard about Mr. Uchino from Toyota, our original bloke. In 2009, here's one. Kenji Hamada was an employee at a Tokyo-based security company. He had a devoted young wife and a formidable work ethic. And saying that in the Japanese context kind of makes me
formidable.
scared.
Yeah.
His typical week involved 15 hours a day and a grueling 4-hour commute. 15 hours a day and a 4-hour commute.
You're not living close enough. I think move. I'm
Yeah,
not
because
a.
Tokyo's pretty cheap
No, I know, but 2 hours.
each way. Not uncommon at all. Not uncommon at all. So
Says me. Here's my check your privilege, wanker. When you skateboard in for 20 minutes.
oh, I'm mad. Like if there's no traffic, I can get from my carport to my car park.
Carport.
My car park.
One's car park.
9 minutes.
There you go. Yeah, no, I know.
It's fucked. I get angry if it took me 15. Well, not angry, but I notice it. So one day he was found slumped over his desk and his colleagues assumed he was asleep. When he hadn't moved for several hours,
Okay, I thought you were going to say days.
no, just hours, they realised he was dead.
Well, he hadn't answered any emails in that time.
Lazy fuck. So he died of a heart attack at 42. This is where it gets more interesting, though.
I'm 42 and no one should die of heart attacks at my age. I think
none of you should die of a heart attack.
900-year-olds, that maybe you can have a heart attack. That's all.
A mild one, just a wake-up call.
Methuselah, like you can have a heart attack.
Oh, my God, I'm 900 and I had a bit of a Twitter.
Yoda.
So here's where it kind of changes a bit because 2013, a 31-year-old journalist, Miwa Sado, died of heart failure. Female.
Ah,
Female.
31, yeah.
Yep.
Look.
Which is very uncommon.
Well, look, to defend the bosses in this scenario, who knows what congenital effects are exacerbated by this? Like there's got to...
Doctors know.
Well, yes, but there's got to be some of the people that suffer here may have been made worse by occupational conditions, but it's not like you've taken everyone equally necessarily.
So what you're saying is you take it seriously until I mention a woman. Is that what you're saying?
Damn.
Is that what you're telling me?
Damn, you woked me. Damn, you got it. Damn.
No one can mess with the awakened, bro.
Damn, man. Oh, man. Look, did you... Oh.
Do you want to push
no,
pause?
obviously.
Push pause and cry.
No,
for
I
what?
hate all genders. You know, you
That's
all
fair.
get fucked.
That's fair. You little sucky bastards. So she apparently logged 159 hours of overtime in the month before she died at her news network at NHK. 159 hours of overtime in a month. Overtime, not work hours. I mean, do you do 159 hours in a month? Divide that by 4.
Don't.
It's fair to say, if the boss is listening, of course I do.
Many times that.
Every
I mean,
day of the month.
obviously, precisely the amount that is registered in my
Exactly
enterprise market.
140 hours a week.
Exactly.
That's a month.
Exactly
That's what I do. Exactly 140 hours. That's 435s, isn't it?
No, it's not. You don't know how to multiply, man.
70.
And there's also a month is not 4 weeks. Seriously.
Stop messing with my mind.
Seriously.
You son of a bitch. So that was in 2013, but her death wasn't called Karoshi until October 2017. So female equality,
Yeah.
they get it too now. 2016, there was a report examining Karoshi cases. Cause of death found that more than 20% of the people in a survey of 10,000 Japanese workers said they worked at least 80 hours of overtime a month.
Oh, Jesus. 20
hours a week. essentially.
Overtime.
Overtime.
Oh.
And it's fair to say, though, it didn't say it in this particular source, that might not have been and probably wasn't paid.
You know what I want to know, though? How accurately can people diagnose their own amount of time working? And maybe if you're in a factory and you literally, you know what moment you worked in.
You clock on and clock off.
You're clocked in and clocked off and you've got it.
Yeah.
I feel like some other industries, it may not be easy to tell.
Yeah.
Like it's...
like us, we actually do about a 90-hour week.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't record that easily.
Like when you're in the
It's
shower...
emotional labour.
And you have half a thought. You know, that counts as an hour's work.
I'm exhausted.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't come in today.
I've already done my 8 hours before.
Leave me alone. This idea is enormous. So it gets pretty messy. So how do you stop the
We
karosh?
love you, academics.
How
We
do you
love
stop
you.
the karosh?
Is it revolution?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
That's how it ends. Thank you for listening. So in the late 80s, a group of lawyers set up the Karoshi hotlines, as I mentioned. They were nationally available, and that's great.
No, that was actually in the first chapter of Marx's. After Marx wrote the Das Kapital, he then wrote the Communist Manifesto.
Hotlines, the way to
Communist
save
Manifesto
lives.
was amongst his biggest selling books, and Hotlines is chapter 2.
Does he sell them? What a sellout.
I know, right? I know. But anyway,
Fucking sell.
but yeah, he said a spectre is haunting Europe, and it's the communist spectre. And then he's like, hotlines will be the solution.
Save me.
Like we'll need
Secular religion.
write a letter on your horse to Hotline Marx.
Write a letter on your horse?
I don't know. Well, they didn't have telephones.
Am I on the horse or am I
Telegram.
riding onto the horse?
They could have had telegram hotlines.
Can you imagine that?
Hot telegrams.
In 6 months, too late. I'm into a hot telegram. What you wearing? So in 2016, a 24-year-old Matsuri Takahashi worked 105 hours of overtime in a month at his Japanese ad agency. She tweeted things like this: "It's 4 a.m. My body's trembling. I'm going to die. I'm so tired."
Oh, that's a great addition of Twitter.
You can get your feelings out.
I mean, a lot of people tweet things like it's 4 a.m. My body is tingling. I think I'm going to die. So,
Or I think I'm going to come again.
Or whatever.
Saucy.
I don't know why you would stop to tweet that.
Really?
I don't know why.
Isn't social media all about saying, I'm having more orgasms than you right now?
I don't think it actually is.
Oh, no, that's Instagram. Photos too.
Again, I don't think any social media is purely focused on the orgasm. I don't know which. I haven't tried them all, but
yeah, well, you need to do more research, bro.
Okay, well, yeah, sure.
So Takahashi jumped off the roof of her office on Christmas Day 2015.
Okay.
And the director or the president and CEO of that company resigned a month later. So this was under the auspices of talking about preventing Karoshi. This started to nudge people. People saw this and went, what the fuck? In a Japanese polite way.
Yeah, yeah.
So they came up with ideas like this. So the federal government announced it's a Premium Friday plan.
Mm-hmm.
Premium Friday.
Okay.
Effective immediately. Workers would get the chance to leave at 3 p.m. on the last Friday of each month.
I love, you know what you do when you get the chance to leave. It just does my head, because you know it'll be like this is in the Cultural Revolution in Marx. It's like
I don't
in communist China. So this was under Mao in the 60s. They said, who has some great ideas of how we can change and fix the revolution to go a bit better?
Yeah,
let 1,000 ideas bloom. They let 1,000 ideas bloom. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Could you come over here to this place where you get a free speedboat and an execution?
Yeah.
I kind of feel like...
Can I just have one of those?
I feel like saying you have the chance to leave at 3 p.m.
One Friday a month you get to leave at 3 p.m, but we'll fuck you up if you do.
Yeah, it really is. Who's going to do it?
Look, I don't... To be fair, I understand your suspicion.
No, you've got to force these things.
But I don't think it happened that way. But what they did find was... At least this report I was reading was only 8 months after the program. They didn't see much success, and in part that was because many companies
What a surprise.
Yeah, well, our monthly finances aren't looking good,
No.
so you just work really hard every other day.
Yeah, there you go. And also B, wow, everyone wants to work that hard.
Of course they do.
They're choosing to work way past 3 p.m.
Yeah, for free or not.
Fuck off.
So some companies tried to minimize karoshi by offering breakfasts to those who arrive early. And I love the phrase, dissuading them from staying too late.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Not persuading them to turn up early?
No. Others have let workers take off time if they need it. But experts on Japanese culture, I was going to go into the details. But
the only way to fix this, the only way to fix this is to stop it. Like you have to.
You're
have
not
the guts,
allowed
you have
to
the
work
guts
now.
To say no, you're not allowed to. And this is here's a Karoshi equivalent that we have dealt with in Australia. Truck drivers. Getting to a place where they go, okay, I can just add an extra couple of hours where I get to my next destination, but obviously adding massive risk to the places they're driving
everyone
through.
near them. Yeah,
and so you go, just have a little bit of speed, and I'll just get there a few more hours. I can just get there,
Yeah.
and then they end up working 50, 60 hours a week of driving, and they have crashes. Absolutely goes up, and you just stop it. You just say no. If you have to log how many hours you're driving, and if your company makes you drive more than that time, they get massive fines. They get kicked out of the business. Like the only.
So you're saying solving it with drugs isn't a solution after all?
No, I'm saying no. I'm saying normally I'm pro. Normally,
I didn't know you were that conservative.
Normally, I'm drugs and regulation. I'm not drugs or regulation. I'm
delicious.
drugs and regulation.
What do you stand for? Drugs and regulation.
Yes. No, he's just government. This is the job
Small
of government
big
to
drug.
say stop. The
absolutely,
only way to stop
absolutely.
this is to say no.
Yeah.
Like you can't have people. You can choose to work less hours. The point is they can't choose that.
Yeah, because if you do, there are many unspoken implications, and none of them are shiny.
I'm glad that this is by far the most communist episode we've ever done. But look, you fucking did it. So there you go.
Oh, believe me, screw capitalism. Like screw it really hard. So yeah, experts on Japanese culture, both Japanese and non-Japanese, are very skeptical these measures make any difference.
Indeed.
So you asked earlier, non-Japanese karoshi.
Okay.
China apparently loses some 600,000 people a year to what they call gua laosi. My tone is, of course, perfect. 600,000 people here, like 1,600 people a week.
I have no idea because China is too big to count. So,
That's true. 1,600, there's plenty more where that came from.
I know. That's a very racist thing to say.
It's not racist, it's anti-people.
But
That's
yes.
more than race.
No,
man.
it's both.
In your defense, you've gone beyond race.
No, in my defense, I did both. So,
oh, that's double.
yeah.
That's permaculture.
I achieved that.
Every utterance has at least two implications. South Korea, the term guarosa, again, my accent is flawless, is used to refer to death by overwork. But Korea actually has some of the longest hours in the world. According to the OECD thing I said, it was high. It was third.
But what that suggests is maybe they're doing better at counting than Japan.
Well, yeah, and I love it. In 2018, the South Korean government said, okay, we've got to fix this. So they enacted a law cutting standard working hours from 68 hours a week to 52.
Wait, their standard hours was 68?
Yay. Only 52 now. This is best. And that's, of course, official, not,
I know.
Taiwanese media reported at least one case of Karoshi, which was an engineer working for the Nanya technology company for a few years. He died in front of his computer, which was surrounded by company documents. The prosecution of this case found the engineer died of cardiogenic shock. The parents of the engineer, so young bloke, said he usually worked between 16 and 19 hours a day. A day.
Well, if you're working 16 to 19 hours per day, are we including commute in that or not? Because if he's got the 4-hour commute and you add 19 plus 4,
no, it's Taiwan. Taiwan's very small, so he could walk to work. And by walk, I mean limp,
I don't think so.
Limp and insane.
Taipei is not Tokyo, but it is still a large city.
It's like 820 people, plus or minus a couple of million.
I feel like 19 hours a day, like I don't want to add commuting on top of that.
I don't want to add anything to that. I just don't want to.
God, you feel frustrated though. You do 19 hours a day and then you got like 2-hour commute and then you have 10 minutes of sleep. And we all know, because listener, that the invention that we're all hoping for is the instant bed button. Like you've never thought this? You're lying on the couch.
I'm prepared to listen.
You're watching the final episode of Loki and you're like, that was awesome. Cool. It's 11:49. Awesome time to go to bed. And you press a button. It says, oh, I'm in bed. That's so good. I'm in bed.
I'm waiting for the invention that cures all diseases.
No, I don't care about that. Fuck that. I just want to make going to bed easier.
I just want to lie down.
That's all I want.
Fuck, you're much easier to please than me. I'm so high maintenance. So just before you think it's all about Asia,
yes,
because it's easy to think that. 2013, Bank of America Merrill Lynch intern Moritz Erhard was found dead in his shower after working for 72 hours straight.
Wow, an intern 72 hours straight. How is that even possible?
Intern.
How is that even close to possible?
Well, it's okay, they fixed it. So the 21-year-old...
And did he actually, I mean, not to second guess these people, I mean, how do we have records to know that he did do 72 hours straight?
Look, obviously I wrote to Merrill Lynch, but I'm still waiting
for a reply. You did an FOI on
I'm still waiting for a reply. If you're listening, Merrill Lynch, and I know you are, return my email. So the 21-year-old was found to have died from, as they put it, epilepsy, but it was probably triggered by working so hard, according to the inquest. But it's okay, because following his death, the bank restricted intern work days to 17 hours. You fucking assholes. You've got to be kidding me. Okay, you're only allowed to work 17 hours. Thanks, boss.
So if you start at 9 o'clock, when does 17 hours take you to? I can't do the maths on that. It's impossible. It's midnight. It's
9
midnight.
plus 5.
It's midnight.
Yeah.
You can work from 17 hours is 9 a.m. to midnight. Isn't it? Who could do the maths?
It's more 9 plus 5.
You should do the maths on this in advance, so we don't look like clowns in front of our audience.
We're always going to look like clowns. It's more like 9 till 2 a.m.
Fucking social scientists.
Imagine that as your improved working hours. Your improved working hours. Yeah. I read that and I spat my drink. It's okay. We're restricting this intern working hours to 17 hours.
Let's assume he was very well paid as an intern.
It's pretty much endemic in industry that interns are overpaid.
Overpayment of interns.
Overpaid and underworked. A mere 17 hours a day. And also, I mean, it's been commented on in the West, this whole culture of presenteeism has a lot to answer for. A lot to answer for. So, to step us out. Mr. Uchino and Toyota, you will remember our dear friend who began this whole story. So Toyota is challenging at the moment GM as the world's largest car maker, and it's often praised for its efficiency and the flexibility of its workforce.
I thought they were well ahead already, but anyway.
Well, they might be by now. This is a couple of years old, this report. Okay. So his wife has a different view of that. She says, look, it's because so many people work free overtime that Toyota reaps profits. I hope some of these profits can be brought back to help employees and their families. That would make Toyota a truly global leader. And in the wake of Ushino's death, the company is promising to prevent Karoshi in the future. Yay.
What year was that?
About 10 years ago.
Oh.
In the Japanese system, if a death is judged to be karoshi, surviving family members may receive compensation of around 20 grand a year.
Oh, nice.
From the government.
That's very nice.
And sometimes, up to $1 million from the company will be handed over in damages. For deaths that aren't designated.
Here's another way to solve it.
Yeah.
Here's another way to solve it.
Yeah, don't do it.
No. Make fines that hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, Toyota, biggest car company in the world. What do you reckon the biggest car company in the world is worth?
That's $250 million fine.
It's got to be like that. Like that. They are a $500 billion company. Their revenue is in the many billions. Profits are in the many billions. You've got to make it hurt. To stop people, you've got to say
no fine matters if it doesn't sting.
Like, it really, this is if we're talking $1 million, that's the price of doing business for them.
Oh yeah, no, that's freaking petty cash. So in 1988, deaths that were not designated karoshi, the family gets pretty much nothing. So in 1988, 4% of claims for karoshi compensation were successful. 4% in 88.
Yeah. By
2005, it was 40%.
Okay.
I've not seen a later number. So basically, but Uchino back in 2002, his ruling put a lot more pressure on companies to change their ways. So it went somewhere. So I started off saying, fuck hacks. Hacks are garbage. So I've got some of my own. I've got some tips.
Give me your hacks.
So for starters, this is not only for me. I'm summarising, absorbing other people's. Meaningful work is important to pretty much everyone. That's demonstrable.
Yep.
People give a shit about meaningful activity and labour. We do.
Yep. But that's
most meaningful work, not necessarily your job.
If there was some sort of universal basic income,
for example.
Yeah. No, but many people would still want to contribute value to society.
Yeah, exactly. So, and this is the thing. I think we conflate without thinking about it, meaningful work and my job.
Yeah, okay.
So there's a lot of that. So think about that. I also, this is what I do. This is a personal tip. Ask yourself, if I don't do this weird, annoying, overtly pointless little bureaucratic thing that's come to me, what would actually happen? So when you get a ridiculous bureaucratic request and you think, I've got to act on it, think about what would happen. And I've tested this. I think I've spoken to you about this before. So, for example, I took a week where I ignored every what I perceived to be trivial bureaucratic email. I ignored the lot.
What happened? The world. Is that the week when fucking Thanos snapped?
It was.
It was you.
I went, okay, I'm just going to ignore it. I'm going to see if I get harassed again. And I think I got about 20% second, hey, have you done this yet?
I've certainly seen senior academics, senior research and teaching academics, as in like they've got to a senior place, but not necessarily management.
Yeah.
Go. You know what? You can leave every email until they harass you.
Yeah.
And if they actually harass you, then there's probably a reason.
Yep.
Otherwise, it'll get solved on its own.
I have tested it, and I've tested it more than once, and it works.
However,
in our industry,
is that, and this is the cultural problem, is that pushing it onto others around you, other members of the Wholesome Show?
It's fair to say, I don't know. It probably. I don't think most of the ones I ignored had anything to do with our.
No. I was talking about the email inbox to the Wholesome Show, which is overflowing.
Do we have an inbox?
Yes, we have. Yeah, absolutely.
What's in it?
Lots of. It's porn. It's all Viagra and porn.
Well, you told me that.
I know. You can check it now.
Thank you. Another one I like, and we've both done this. I mean, people we know have both done this. If you're in a meeting, it's going nowhere, it's wasting your time. You basically get up and say, sorry, I have to leave in 5 minutes, and then leave and offer no explanation. No one asks.
No.
No one ever asks.
As many of my colleagues know, I have, as you told me before, massively undiagnosed attention deficit disorder.
I know what you're talking about.
But I really can't handle long, slow. I can't handle. And if people are just chatting about the same shit like they feel like having a chat, no, I'm done. I'm done. So
that's how it works. I'm telling you, at least in my industry and a couple of others, you just say, I've got to go in 5 minutes, and then you leave, and you don't say why. You just leave. No one asks.
I still remember a friend of mine, we were going out, this is at uni, going and having some beers, and he was like, "Oh,
you're going to say cones? I could say
no. It's lunchtime beers, so we had to be somewhere to get the lunchtime beers." But he was he was like, "Oh, I've got a compulsory shoot, so I better turn up. You better grab that quick. I better turn up first and talk to them." And he was there, and he said, "All right, I'll go in there for 2 minutes, And then, okay, so he went up for 2 minutes and he turns out he's awesome, solved it. He got through the chute and he's like, shit, I've left the iron on. Bolts out of the chute.
Looking like a crumpled bag of shit. It's like, I bet you didn't.
No.
But seriously, no one asks if you can do stuff like that. No one's going to go, hang on a minute, is that true? Another one I like is...
but flip this around. And I'm going to play devil's advocate on that. Decisions are made by people who turn up.
Yeah, but not at everything they turn up to.
No.
Many things to which we go are not decision-making things.
No, yeah, that's true. That's true. And finding the difference is the key thing. But it's definitely there are moments when if you're not in the room, then you don't get then dumb decisions are made. And it's not even you don't get to claim the credit. And I don't care about that. It's dumb decisions.
Yeah, you kind of go, is that a good idea?
You really that's what you chose when I wasn't there. I walk out of the room
again,
and you choose
and
we're all going to go to science camp. Everyone's going to science camp.
I'm into that. As long as there's bunk beds and shared bathrooms. But also the dumb decisions can be made about dumb things that don't matter anyway. So there's a proportion of those. I'll add another one. If you're asked by colleagues or indeed bosses or whatever related to such folk, I need you to add this to your infinity to-do list. You say to them, I would love to do that. What would you like me to drop?
Yeah.
And not enough people do that. It's like, yeah, absolutely, I can do that. But what would you like me to not do so that I can do that? And another one, I've just done this recently. I mean, for all my tough talk, only in the last few months, I take my weekend off. No matter what, no matter how busy I am, I do not do work on the weekend.
Look at you.
It's fucking gold. It's absolutely so good because it means if I'm too busy at work, then I go into work and go, look, I've got too much to do and I need to find a way to do it or I just drop shit and don't tell anyone. But take the weekend off. If you've got a 9 to 5 job like we do, mostly except for now because we're recording at 2 o'clock in the morning, don't work on the weekend. Just try it. Just try it.
You know what? Just on that. That and you it's nice that you have gone with
These are my hacks.
The most communist of episodes that we've ever done. but the biggest fight that the Labor movement won was for the weekend.
It was.
Weekends are an invention of the Labor movement.
Absolutely.
They said, give us some freaking time back. Yes, there was always the church. The church clawed back a bit from capital. They said you can have Sunday morning to go to church, but other than that, but it was the Labor movement that said, hey, let's actually have a life.
You're allowed. Like you actually are allowed. And the ramifications in most jobs, at least in a country like ours, are not appalling. It's when I see emails.
And listener, if you live in a place where they are appalling,
let us know.
No, but
let Will know.
But things need to change. Things need to.
So I mean, for me, it's the classic. So we have many colleagues like this, but I had a classic exchange with a colleague who sent me an email on the weekend. That often happens, and so I harass them. I always harass people now when they do that. And I predicted the response would be something along the lines of course I did it on the weekend because it means my week coming up is far less stressful. Mm-hmm. And I understand the sentiment. I have no beef with the sentiment. But the problem is what we don't do, at least in our industry and many others, is to say, hang on a minute, if that's the way we have to operate, what's wrong with the bigger picture? Because if you need to work in your off time, your downtime, your replenishing time, in order to be able to make your normal work time okay, there's shit going on with the bigger picture. And I don't understand why we keep doing this to ourselves.
Oh, my God.
You're a communist. Oh, no, I am.
No, you are. You are.
Yeah, smash the state.
There's power in a union. Holy shit.
Communion?
Yeah, no, that too. There's power in communion and in a union. Look, you only get the world that you fight for.
Fight for?
Fight for.
Oh, fight for.
And smell the farts of. Smell the farts of the world, but fight for what it is that you... Canadian.
Just think about it. Just ask the questions. That's the thing I think. People just got to ask questions like, oh my God, I'm really exhausted from my work. Don't accept that that's normal. Just say, hang on a minute, should this be normal? That's my main thing. Like, is this right?
The Wholesome Show is brought to you by the Australian National Centre for the Public Awareness of Science and possibly Communism. We'd have to take that up with our college if we're going to change names, though. And it's me, Will Grant, and him, Rod Lamberts.
Cut Rod Carmaster.